All right, looks like we are live now, and I'm just waiting for 7 p.m. and for people to start trickling in. We should be getting underway in just a moment. If you're watching right now, please be sure to post any of your comments in the comments below. If you are having trouble, you can join us. Let's do this here. It's back in live. Trying to set up a link for you guys to join us here. Links. Okay. All right. You can join us. So basically, if you're having trouble, just scroll down to the bottom and you can join the event page and add questions there too. I'll be checking all of them. Please be sure to ask questions. All right, looks like we do have one viewer here. Let's see if I can start to get some questions. So you guys can use the chat feature to ask questions, whatever it may be, to be able to access. You can also log in and post comments on the actual YouTube page itself. So I'm pretty much waiting for people to ask questions, so at any point in time you guys have any questions, I will be sitting here and waiting for pretty much the next 30 minutes or so, so if anything comes up, by all means, ask away. All right, so we have a few viewers. Again, for those of you watching at home right now, be sure to ask your questions on either the event page on either YouTube or our website, localphotoclasses.com. It should be very simple. If you go to the YouTube page, where the link is down below at the bottom of the localphotoclasses.com page, you can either ask questions on the comments there or the comments on YouTube. Either one is fine, but do post your questions somewhere so that I can answer some questions for people. That would be the goal. So as we're waiting here, I will just mention that we are in the midst of launching our beta for localphotoclasses.com. Basically, this is a site that hopefully is the one that you found this live Q&A via. And I'm very proud of it. It's going to be a lot better than Meetup and offer a lot more functionality and just a lot more usability for most people, making it just more of a genuine experience. So as I'm just kind of sitting here and waiting, we do have a couple viewers, so I would love to please you guys and answer any of your questions, but I've yet to see anything come in. You can ask any question you want regarding photography, or I can help you in any way. Just want to be as effective as possible in answering any questions that you have. Ideally, you guys are supposed to ask questions beforehand, but in this the first case situation where we don't have any questions beforehand. So like I said, I'll just kind of hang out here for a couple of minutes and see what questions come up. And yeah, we'll just see what happens. Well, I'll go ahead and just share my screen, and why I'll do that is just to kind of walk you through our new site. Just feel like I got to do something while we're sitting here waiting for questions. So with the new site, you can see here, localphotoclasses.com. Very proud of it. It's looking pretty clean so far. We're still missing some pieces of content. It is being done right now. That's why it's a beta. You guys are the first ones to kind of see what it looks like right now. But you can see we're just going to be a lot more visual, a lot cleaner with imagery. We can add just different testimonials. We can have a newsletter for people to sign up. We're going to be bringing back our weekly newsletter, which is very exciting. Those were very popular back when we were doing it a while ago, and people requested it, so we're bringing it back. How you'll sign up for classes, you just click on local classes, and you can see all the different classes that we offer, and you can just click on one and learn more about it and see what available classes we have coming up. Like I said, we don't have all the functionality in place right now, so you don't see all of them. But if you want to view the calendar, you can see which classes are coming up on the calendar, very similar to Meetup. You can see that we have a night and low light class on the 25th. You just click and go to it. You view everything here, see what intrigues you, what interests you, and then you just go, you can leave comments, or you can just click and register and fill out your information right here. All we ask is for a name, email address, and username and password. And basically what happens is once you create a username and password, you just use that to log in at any point in time thereafter. And yeah, it's just going to be a lot easier versus having to create a full profile, upload a picture, all that kind of stuff. It's just boom, sign up. And we still use PayPal, and it's very efficient, very easy to do. So still waiting on some questions, but as we do that, I can go to my home page, and we can click on the live Q&A. That's a class that we're hosting right now, and you can actually watch live from our page the actual class. So I find that very very handy. Does this work now? Yes. First question. All right, Paula, I see you. By all means, ask any questions that you have. You might be on a little bit of a delay. But what just happened? Just lost it. All right. Go back to the. There you go. So we'll just hopefully get a question or two from Paula, and we'll be underway. I'll go ahead and just bring back my video. So it seems like we had a few viewers and no questions. So there might be a technical issue. If that's the case, I would love to hear that feedback. Just go ahead and click on the chat box anywhere, or shoot me an email. Actually, I probably should check my email, see if anything's coming through. Alright. Looks like no questions from email. All right, we got 5 people watching, but no questions. I'll give you guys about another 5 minutes to ask questions. You guys can ask questions via my email, anything, Twitter. Just I get notifications if you ask questions anywhere, so I'm checking all of them to see what's going on, to see if there's anything popping up that I can help you guys with. Still nothing. All right, Paul's got our first question. Jason, do you have any favorites or recommendations for printing labs? Well, I'll kind of elaborate on this a little bit. So with printing, you have quite a few options. It just depends on what you want to print. With printing labs, what I recommend is obviously having a local printing lab is ideal. Main reason is you can build a relationship with them, and you can really get to know the process a little bit more than going online. Now, online definitely has its advantages, and I use online and offline for various reasons for both. But the main reason I really like online or offline and actually meeting with someone is because if anything goes wrong or maybe I mess something up, I get immediate notification of that and can fix it, or they can fix it. Usually there's such high margins in prints. They usually don't mind reprinting something at their cost, which is really nice. And just building that relationship with them, especially when starting out, that I think will be very helpful, very effective for your learning process and just figuring everything out. So in terms of what my recommendations are, I really like George's Camera, obviously #1. They can print mostly anything that you need, and when you mention my name, you get 30% off their prints. So that's a pretty smoking deal. They're in North Park. Then there's Fromex, which is a really high-end lab that services primarily professionals, and that's off El Cajon Boulevard in I think La Mesa area. Really nice group of guys there. Really know what they're doing. Solid equipment, everything that you really need. Then there's what else? There's Chrome Digital. That's downtown in Little Italy. They have pretty much all the equipment that you really need to get any kind of photos that you will need to get done. Those they do canvas as well as regular prints. Those are the kind of local central San Diegan options. Other locations, I'm not too familiar with North County. I know there's 1 or 2 up there. I want to say like Pro DPI or something like that. It's one of the ones up in North County, but I'm not too familiar with North County. And then the other online ones I recommend would be Impix. Impix has been around for decades, known as Miller's. They used to only service professionals, and Impix is their consumer brand. And they have the same professional service, same professional equipment, but for consumers at a consumer price at the ease of ordering from online and having it shipped to your house. So just to review, Impix for online, Fromex in El Cajon or off El Cajon Boulevard, George's Camera in North Park, and Chrome Digital in Little Italy. So those are the ones I recommend. Hope that answers your question, Paula. And I have Marlene's question. Will you have new classes in the coming year? Yes, we have lots of new classes, hopefully coming up rather soon. So we did a survey at the end of the year last year, and we got some really good feedback on the topics that people want. People want a little bit more variety in landscape classes. They want a family photography class, some more hands-on type classes. So we do have some exciting things coming up. I don't have anything 100% solidified because we're trying to recruit new instructors as well to be able to teach these more specialized classes that I think will be really interesting for people. And I'm excited to offer those because I just think they'll be new, they'll be different, they'll be able to bring in some people that have maybe taken our classes in the past that are looking for something new and fresh. What's also really exciting is we are launching our new site, localphotoclasses.com, which I kind of briefly reviewed a moment ago. If you missed it, you can just check out localphotoclasses.com. It's not entirely complete, so do take it with a grain of salt. Not all the content is there, but it's coming together pretty nicely. And with that, hopefully in the next month or two, we will have a system where we do all of our regular kind of most common classes online. So like our Photography 101, 102, those type of classes. There'll be a lecture online that you watch from the comfort of your own home. And then you come into a class, a local class with myself or another instructor, and actually learn the material hands-on and spend more time shooting, more time with hands-on activities than going through the lecture stuff, which you can do at home. So we're trying to maximize people's time with us so they get more value out of our classes. So this is a big undertaking that we're taking on to help provide more value to our students, give them more bang for their buck, and just give a better overall experience for them. Next question is, I still struggle with exposure. Most pics come out too dark. Any helpful hints or tips? So first thing I always have to say is check your exposure compensation. So let's see if I got my camera here. Marlene, I don't know what camera you have, but here is a Nikon, and typically Nikon's exposure compensation is right here. It's a plus or minus button that you just hold down and scroll. That's your exposure compensation. And then for Canons, there's usually a button right here that says AV plus or minus. Hold that down and scroll, and make sure it's set at 0 or right there in the middle, and that will ensure that you have the proper exposure compensation. If you're still experiencing pictures coming out too dark, there could be a situation where you're shooting with too bright of a backlight. So what that means is there's too much light in the background. So you need to start shooting in manual mode to adjust for that, or change your metering options, which like we talk about in Photography 102 is evaluated metering takes in the whole scene, and whereas like spot metering meters only on what you want to meter on. So if you focus on a person that is in the shade or in shadows, you can properly expose for them and then not worry about the background. So I recommend first checking your exposure compensation, and then I recommend either switching to manual mode and shooting manually, or I recommend shooting with spot metering and metering on your particular subject. Next question. I can't see the chat box on the local photo classes page, so watching and making questions via Tuesday there seems to be a really long delay. Yes, so there is just a delay, so sorry. Keep trying new software, new solutions that can help engage people better, and there just seems to be a drawback with everything that I do. The YouTube Live, I really do like, because I can embed it on the actual page, and what I'll be doing is just probably adding an actual chat box to the actual page later on that I think will be easier, so people don't have to go to YouTube and move everything around. So, learning by mistakes, and trying to figure out what's going to be the easiest thing to do. So what will be best is, sorry, I got distracted. What will be best is probably having this video with, it'll have a slight delay. There's nothing I can do about the delay. It's about a 30-second delay. But what I'll be doing is having that video on the page with the actual live chat box, so people can just enter their questions via the chat box, and we won't have any issues. Okay. So Marlene, you said I have a Nikon D7000. Yep, no issues. Exposure compensation. I learned that some time ago. So hopefully the situation with you, Marlene, is it's maybe just not metering on the right subject. If you're shooting in manual mode and still having things come out too dark, even after you're correcting them, there might be something wrong with your camera. I don't think that's possible or something that would happen very commonly, but I do recommend maybe taking a couple of pictures inside and just kind of testing the settings and see if you can get a well exposed picture, and just see how difficult it is to make that happen. So also another question, I've noticed that some of my photos don't come out tack sharp. Might this be my autofocusing or my lens or my eyeballs? Any tips to get better at this? So I have this issue too with my camera, and I have very expensive Nikon D800, and basically it could be the autofocus. So there could be some micro adjustments you have to make, And if you don't know how to do that, you can Google as much as you want, or you can check out Kurt's camera off Mission Gorge Drive. They take care of all that kind of stuff for me. I just don't have the time to tinker with it. The other option is it could be your lens. So depending on what lens you have, maybe if you dropped it or something went wrong with it, or it could be misaligned, that could be an issue. And ultimately, it's not your eyeballs if you're taking a picture and it's coming out blurry. So the best test is to go out like on a bright sunny day, which hopefully will be tomorrow because today was beautiful, and set your camera up on a tripod or a stable surface, and then focus on something that's really far away, and take a couple of pictures and try to like focus in and out, and see if it's coming out sharp. If it's still having trouble, try a picture kind of up close, not super close to where it can't focus, but something about maybe 10, 15 feet away. And focus in on the subject in the foreground, then focus out to the background, and then just check to see if it's focusing properly. If it's not focusing properly, then it could either be your lens or your body. And I probably recommend going to George's to have it totally taken care of. So if you have any other problems with that, just trying to think of what other things that could be going wrong. Put it in the pure autofocus where it just focuses on whatever it wants, and see if that works as well. Because sometimes when I use my spot focus, I have a little bit of problem, but when I use the autofocus, it's always tack sharp. And also make sure you're shooting with a fast shutter speed, because if you're not shooting with fast shutter speed, that could also cause it to be blurry. Okay. So if you have any other questions popping up anywhere on the site. Right, so no additional questions. All right, well, if I don't have any more questions come up, I'll kind of let my video catch up here. It seems to have a little bit of delay. I do have one person trying to ask questions. It looks like we're having some technical difficulties in terms of people trying to be able to ask questions. So I will definitely keep that in mind for the future and try to make it as easy as possible next time to where no one can miss it. I think Darren has a question or two to ask. If you have any questions, I'm still here answering questions. I'll give you guys about another 10 minutes or so to ask some questions, and if you're having any trouble, just let me know. All right, so Darren has a question about diopter calibration. So basically what your diopter is, and just kind of show you guys right here, this little thing right here is usually your diopter. It's usually something right around your, what's it called? Sorry, a little bit of noise in the background. Hold on one second. No, you not roll that right now. Sorry for that. So the diopter is usually located right here by the viewfinder, and on mine it's just kind of off to the side. Basically, the best way to determine how to calibrate your diopter is focus in on something using autofocus, and when it goes beep beep or like turns green and you know it's in focus, make sure it's in focus for you by putting your looking through the viewfinder and checking to see if it's in focus. If it says it's in autofocus and it's not looking good or something's wrong, then adjust it just by turning it ever so slightly until it comes into focus for you. Best to do on a tripod, that way you're not kind of like moving in and out and messing up with your focus and everything. So set up on a tripod or somewhere stable and just kind of tweak this until it's ready to go. Okay. See if we have any other questions from Darren. It's tax time. What is the biggest got yas? Don't know what you mean by that, Darren. There's another question. Really, any tips for using the program mode? I typically stay in aperture and sometimes manual, but I want to branch out just a little bit. Honestly, if you're already using aperture priority and manual mode, I don't really recommend program mode. Program mode's more like auto mode, so I would stick with something probably sticking with aperture priority or manual mode. Program mode is primarily more for snapshots, so that's really what it's for, and you can play around with exposure compensation like I was talking about earlier, but honestly, you're going to learn a lot more using aperture priority or manual mode, so I would just stick with it and not really, I would say, branch out more into manual mode than branching out of your control and going to program mode. But if you're in a gym and you just need to take a picture that's well exposed, program mode will usually do just fine. It's great for snapshots. Okay, so Darren's asking a question. What's the biggest things people miss when doing their taxes for their business? Well, I don't know how everyone does their taxes, but I can provide some input when it comes to business taxes. Is one, some people don't write off their home business or their home office. So I'm not a CPA, so I can't give you tax advice, but I can encourage you to talk to your CPA and ask about writing off your home office. So sometimes you can write off some of your utilities. Basically, there's some, like, depending on how much space you're using for your in your home for your office space. So Darren, I know that you have a studio in your place, so you might be able to write off some of that. Other key tips to remember when filing taxes is you have up to 3 out of 5 years to claim a loss when running a business. So if you are running a business, you can claim the first 3 years to not claim a profit. I don't really recommend that. Hopefully you are making a profit, but some people like to cheat the system, but I don't recommend that. I recommend paying your taxes, claiming the profit, and main reason being is that helps you get loans, it helps you get credit cards and credit and all that kind of stuff. If you're claiming zero income, good luck getting a house or a loan of any kind. But on top of that, make sure to write off as much as you can. If you don't need to record income, or you're trying to not pay taxes for your business, or you didn't make an income, just make sure to write off as much as you can. There are some depreciation things you need to keep in mind in terms of like big camera investments, equipment, stuff like that. You can depreciate that over time. So maybe you only made $2,000 this year, but you made $5,000. I mean, sorry, you only made $2,000, but you spent $5,000. Well, you don't want to write off all $5,000 this year because you might make $20,000 next year, and you probably want to be able to have some more write-offs for next year, so you can depreciate most of your assets, things like your camera, certain lights, other pieces of equipment, other things that you invested into, and you can kind of depreciate more of it the next year versus depreciating 100% of it this year. So kind of write off some of your assets, investments, and depreciate them later on. But again, talking to a CPA is probably the easiest thing to do. And one thing I did personally when I filed my taxes for the first couple of years is I just did turbotax.com and like walked you through everything you could think of. And if you do a good job of monitoring your expenses and everything like that, whether you use Mint.com, QuickBooks, or Quicken, whatever you use, as long as you're tracking your stuff somewhere, it's pretty easy to file for your taxes. Last year, or 2 years ago, I paid a CPA to do it, and it just cost way more money than it was worth. I ended up doing it myself last year, and saved me about $3,000, or about $1,500 actually, doing it myself. And I did TurboTax, and took me maybe about 6 hours, 8 hours of undivided attention, focusing on filing my taxes. So it wasn't too bad. Days worth of work to handle all of it. Hope that answers your question, Darren. And yeah, if you guys have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to hang out for a couple more minutes and see what you guys come up with. Other than that, maybe call it a wrap, but we'll see how my video catches up because I know there's about a 30-second delay. It's pretty easy to file taxes. Last year. So Marlene's question, where do I like to shoot in SD County for fun? Well, unfortunately, I don't shoot much for fun in SD County or San Diego, mainly because most of the stuff I do for work is corporate, and most of the stuff I do for fun is outside of San Diego for travel and things of that sort. So I don't really have a lot of places that I shoot. I did like shooting in Little Italy when I used to have my studio there. For me, it's like I try to create anything out of nothing typically. So I like going to more difficult locations that people don't typically shoot in. Like everyone shoots in Balboa Park and all these places, like Old Poway, Presidio, and all that kind of stuff. You run into like 10 different photographers every time you go there. I personally don't like those places, but I saw someone shoot in the old Quarry out in Mission Valley. I thought that was, it's a little sketch, but they ended up kind of hopping the fence and getting some awesome shots. That might be a little out of your comfort zone. What else have I seen? Lake Murray was actually kind of interesting. There's some nice kind of, not wooded areas, but just kind of like a nice grassy type, just wilderness areas with some water and things of that sort. So that's not a bad place to check out. There's also a place in Del Cerro that overlooks Lake Murray that was kind of a fun shoot. I did that a couple years ago. What other good places? Like I said, there's Old Poway Park, there's Presidio Park, that's where we teach some of our classes. Torrey Pines. I'm not much of a family portrait type photographer, so I don't have a lot of those type of places in my repertoire. But just trying to think. Someone got some good shots. One of my students, Ben, got some good shots on the side of the 163, which I thought was awesome. I don't know exactly how he got down there, but his name is Ben Reeve. If you want to reach out to him, he's a very responsive individual, and he's very, very cool. Loves photography, loves helping out other photographers, so that would be something to maybe start a conversation with him. So it's Ben Reeve, R-E-E-V-E. So I hope that helps answer your question a little bit, Marlene. Any other questions? Oh yeah, sorry, that's a totally good spot. Darren just mentioned the ferry landing, looking back at the city. So going to Coronado across the bridge and shooting back at the city is a pretty cool shot location to play with at night or day. All right. All right, guys, so it seems like it's a wrap. So I want to thank you guys for your time, and sorry for the technical issues. I'm always learning how to do this the best way. I'm always trying to find new ways, and all the new technology constantly changing. So hopefully I'll figure it out next time. And yeah, if you guys have any feedback and you want to provide me any information on how to make this better. Oh, we have one more question. Sorry. If I wanted to give low-res digital files to my client for sharing Facebook, emailing family members, what would be a good size? And would be a good idea to have them with or without my logo. So that's a question about watermarking and a question about resizing. So the best Facebook size, I'm going to see if I have my settings in my Lightroom real quick. Yeah, Facebook high quality would be 2048 pixels by long edge. So basically, let me share my screen here so you can see it. So this is how I export my photos in Lightroom. So you'll see that I go resize to fit, I hit long edge, and I put 2048 pixels. That means on the long side, it's typically horizontal, it'll be 2048 pixels wide and 72 pixels per inch. That's what I like doing. I just find it to be the perfect resolution where Facebook doesn't take out quality and is big enough to see full screen on most computers and devices. That's for the highest quality, and the file size is really low. It's like less than a couple hundred kilobytes, so it's usually around 300 to 600 kilobytes, which is really, really small. It's less than a megabyte. And in terms of adding your logo, it depends. If you're trying to get it for some marketing purposes, so they're going to be uploading on Facebook, If it's on Facebook and you're doing like more family relationship type photography, definitely usually works out pretty good. Just use it, do it in a classy way. You know, place it strategically throughout the image so it's not obtrusive in any way. And I just think it usually works out very nicely to have it that way. So let me get back to my screen share. So yeah, 2048 pixels wide and 72 pixels PPI or per inch, and you usually get a high quality enough image for screen use, and then throwing in your logo if you're trying to market yourself and just get some exposure from people. Usually adding your website in your watermark is a good idea as well. So that pretty much wraps up the course. I hope you guys got all the questions answered, and if you guys have any more questions, definitely make it out to our next month. We do these every single month, these live Q&As, and they tend to get better and better every time, but I tend to still make technical errors, or technical errors tend to happen, or whatever, and I just try to make the best of it. So I hope to see you guys at the next Q&A session, and have a great, wonderful night.